Finding Hope, the Road to Recovery.
Hi, my name is John Lavitt, and I'm a journalist, a writer, and the principal content creator for Tarzana Treatment Centers. Welcome today to our program, Finding Hope, a Path to Recovery. We are focusing today, the theme of today is from being in treatment to working in treatment, a remarkable shift. My guest today is Jacqueline Welker, who is a social worker and who works as an outpatient counselor at Tarzana Treatment Centers, Long Beach. Jackie, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you.
So I thought that we could begin this in terms of the part where we talk about being in treatment by talking about what got us into treatment. And we can talk about our bottoms in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's a sensitive topic, but I believe that by letting people know about what happened, by letting people know about how dark it got, that it shows how much of a miracle treatment is.
Yeah.
So can you tell me something about your bottom?
Well, my bottom, I thought I had hit bottom several times before. But this last time, the real bottom, resulted in my children being removed from my care. I had a DCFS case. I was in...
What is DCFS?
Department of Children and Family Service case. I had been arrested for drug sales. I was looking at a long period of time behind bars, and the relationship that I was in was violent and toxic. I was estranged from all of my family, and I had nobody left. Not my kids, not my parents, no one. I had dug myself into a hole, essentially. And I knew I needed help, and I had to help myself. Like many addicts, we come to this realization that, or our family members come to the realization that they can't force us into recovery. They can't force sobriety on us, even though most of them try. I was ready. And
You were willing.
I was very willing.
Willingness is such a huge part of early recovery. It's so difficult to be willing when you are in the thick of your disease.
Yeah.
My bottom was really dark. My bottom, it took place on Sunset Boulevard at the French Cottage Motel, which sounds really fancy-dancy.
It does.
But it was actually a crack motel, which has since been torn down. I was with my ex-wife. I had lost everything. We had lost our house. We had lost our cars. We had lost, we had no money. My family had cut me off, and we were desperate. We were desperate also because we had a huge drug habit, which cost hundreds of dollars per day, and we didn't know how to pay for them. My ex-wife was a painter, and that day I had bought razor blades for her at 7-Eleven. I bought the razor blades so she could cut canvas. But we were at the hotel, we had no money, we didn't know what was going on. And she said to me, why don't we go into the bathroom and just open up our veins?
Oh, wow.
Why don't we die? And it seemed like a pretty good option at the time. However, my friend was coming the next day to loan me money. So I was like, let's wait till he shows up and gives us the money, and we can buy some more drugs, and then we can take it from there. we can kill ourselves tomorrow night.
That seems totally logical.
Because that's how a drug addict thinks.
In that state of mind, right? That's, you know.
Like, so my friend actually showed up not with money, but with an intervention. And he showed up with my best friend from college, with a friend of mine who was my drug buddy for years. The friend who organized the intervention was not a drug addict. He's a complete normie, but he knew that I was in desperate straits. So basically he showed up and goes, John, can you come down to the coffee house? There was a coffee house next door. And it was an intervention, and probably the easiest intervention ever done. Because I walked in there and I said, we are on heroin and cocaine. We need help. Please help us. And what's incredible is my two friends who were very successful, they paid for my entire rehab and my ex-wife's rehab.
Wow.
They paid over $30,000, and they don't expect a dime back, except for me to stay sober. My wife actually went to Tarzana Treatment Centers, which is incredible.
She's an alumni.
Well, she moved on, and then she relapsed. From actually when she left Tarzana and went to the second place. I went to Beit Teshuva, which was a Jewish rehab, called the House of Return, which is in Hebrew, and I stayed there for 11 months, both in primary treatment and in sober living. I was a wreck. I'm a little bit heavy now. I have to lose some weight, okay, but when I went into treatment, I weigh about 200 pounds now. When I went into treatment, I weighed 140 pounds. And when they call you the Holocaust survivor at the Jewish rehab, you know you look bad.
Yeah.
So things were desperate. Can you tell me about your experience in rehab and what really helped you?
Well, so I went to residential at Tarzana Treatment Center in Central, and I was able to do my detox and utilize MAT services. I had tried in the past Suboxone, methadone, and those weren't working for me.
Now, just to clarify for people who don't know, MAT services at Tarzana Treatment Centers means medications for addiction treatment.
Yeah, medically assisted
treatment as well.
Yeah.
So basically, they're medications that help with the withdrawal symptoms and help you find the road to recovery.
Yeah, and urges. It helps with urges as well. This time, because I was a frequent flyer, I probably should have had like a member's pass. This time they offered Vivitrol, and it sounded too good to be true.
What is Vivitrol?
Vivitrol is an injection once a month, and it helps with urges, but it's also a opiate blocker. So even if I wanted to get high, I couldn't. It would send me into rapid withdrawal, and it would be, from what I'm told, the most horrible withdrawal you would ever experience in your life.
Not fun.
No, not fun. And I did try when I got out of detox. I tried, and it was not fun. It was awful. But it was what I needed to maintain my sobriety, because without it, I wouldn't have been able to be sitting here right now. After I did residential for just a short period, my mom agreed to allow me to move in with her, and I I was incredibly grateful because we had been estranged. And I enrolled into Tarzana Treatment Outpatient in Long Beach. And during that time, I had a wonderful counselor that was also a social worker.
Before we get to your counselor, can we talk about your mom for one quick second?
Yeah.
Because I think sometimes families do not realize how remarkable family support can be.
Yeah.
When you're in treatment, you are so alone, you're at your bottom, and to have families give you that sense of hope,
Yeah.
that sense of belief, it's such a huge moment.
Yeah. And my mom, bless her soul, I mean, she's amazing. She had it really tough with me because I started using at such a young age, and seeing me struggle throughout my life and manipulate her for many, many years, and for money, for whatever. She did what most codependents can't do, and she stopped being a codependent. She stopped enabling me. She completely closed that resource off to me. But she told me always, when you're really ready, when you are really willing, and you need me, call me, and I'll be there. But don't call me unless you're sober.
So that door was open, but only with a willingness.
Yeah.
Can you tell me? You mentioned one of your counselors in recovery and how they helped you. Can you tell me about that counselor?
Her name was Rachel, and she was amazing. She put up with me, and I was not as composed as I am now. Back then, I was all over the place. My emotions were up and down, and she really met me where I was at. She inspired me. She guided me. Well, she used guided questions to help me come to the right conclusions on who I wanted to be and what kind of person I wanted to be. And she held me accountable for many of my actions because, to be honest, I wasn't the greatest at attending treatment in the beginning. I wasn't the greatest at being on time or remembering my counseling sessions.
Surprise, surprise.
Right? I had no idea. I had no idea how to adult at all. I mean, accountability, responsibility, it was so new to me. And she was so patient. She's the reason why I wanted to become a counselor in the first place. And after learning that she wasn't just a substance use disorder counselor, she was also a social worker. And at that time, she was earning her master's. And it inspired me to follow in her footsteps.
Wow, that's an incredible story. I have a story about recovery as well. When I was in treatment, and there was a man, his name is Rabbi Mark Borovitz, and he was the head of Beit Teshuva for a long time. And he really helped me when I went to his office and I was talking to him about spirituality. I was talking to him how I said to him, like, you know what? I felt forsaken. I felt forsaken by God or by my higher power or by whatever you want to call it. And so the fact is, if I was forsaken by God, I was going to be the most forsaken guy on the block. I'll show you forsaken. And I use that kind of as like a justification. And I'm telling him this. I'm telling him how I feel. And he goes, wow, John, you're quite a romantic. You like romancing the idea of being forsaken? Because it has really screwed you up for years. How about realizing that you have to take the first step towards God? You have to take the first step towards spirituality. It won't come to you, but it's an interactive universe. And if you take that first step, I think you'll find remarkable results. And I must admit, Jacqueline, that has been a major theme in my recovery. When I realized if I'm willing to take that first step, if I'm willing to put in effort, it comes back to me. But I have to take that first step. I have to be willing, and not just willing in terms of my theories, because I was always great with theories. Oh, let me tell you this, let me tell you that. But my practice sucked. And so when I started focusing on practice, on taking those steps and embracing recovery and showing up and getting up in the morning and making my bed and doing these like little basic, and oh my God, like what a concept, you know?
And you felt so proud of yourself, right?
You know, a friend of mine in recovery used to say to me, John, stop trying to be the superstar. Stop trying to hit the Grand Slam home run in the 7th game of the World Series. Instead, just show up on a daily basis and do an adequate job at a moderate pace. An adequate job at a moderate pace. What's incredible is like, at first I was like, what? Don't you know who I am? I can do so much better than that. However, when I've done an adequate job at a moderate pace at all my jobs since then, they love me. I do great. Because I'm not trying to be the center of attention. I'm not trying to be the superstar. I'm satisfied with being a worker among workers. And I think that brings us, Jacqueline, to our transition here from being in treatment to working in treatment. And what did that transition look like for you?
It was a journey. It was a slow and steady pace. I was a high school dropout, so I had to get a GED. And while I was doing that, I had to find a job. And I actually found my first job while I was still at outpatient. I was, my mom worked for a plastic surgeon in Long Beach, and they hired me part-time so it wouldn't conflict with my treatment. The doctor did not feel comfortable with me working there because of my opiate addiction. However, she assured him, she's sober, let's give her a chance. And that little chance, along with treatment and finding my higher power, is really what I needed. I needed that break. My mom, work, treatment, my sponsor, going to meetings. These little accomplishments of follow through, slow and steady, is what helped me realize I could get my GED. And I got that. And then I went to community college and I'm like, I'm going to become a counselor, because I was too afraid to pursue something higher, like becoming a social worker and going to Cal State Long Beach. So I went to school and got my associates, and then I'm like, well, human services, all these units can transfer over. I'm going to go for the 4-year. So I got my social worker bachelor's degree, and
Can I ask you a question? When you mentioned being a social worker, your eyes light up.
I love it.
I mean, you obviously have a passion for it. And many people, I don't think they understand what it means to be a social worker. What is special about being a social worker? I'm wondering if you can help us understand that a little bit.
Well, sure. For instance, for my bachelor's, my practicum placement was at Tarzana as a substance use case manager. And that's what got my foot in the, well, I got my own foot in the door originally, but to return to the same facility that I was once a patient, it was amazing. I worked in case management for my internship, and they hired me on for a substance use counselor once my internship was completed and I graduated. Being a social worker, you can work in many different fields, anything from, hospital setting, hospice, integrated health, which is what my focus is on for my master's, which, co-occurring diagnosis, some mental health treatment, substance use disorder.
Okay, just for 1 second, I just want to be able to clarify for people what co-occurring diagnosis is. A co-occurring diagnosis, known as co-occurring disorders, it means when people have multiple issues, when they have both like substance use and mental health, when they have mental health and diabetes. It's when people have two diagnoses, so both diagnoses have to be dealt with. Mm-hmm. So tell me more about, in a sense, like, we're coming to an end here, mm-hmm. but in terms of your transition to treatment, has it been meaningful for you?
It has been the most rewarding career. It gives me purpose to wake up in the morning, and watching the people that I work with find their own path and be able to thrive in their own lives. And
we're going to be able to learn more about that from you.
Yes.
In part 2.
Yes.
Because in part 2, Jacqueline will be talking actually with a former patient.
Yes.
Who's now working in treatment. And she will introduce him and we'll learn more. And she will be the host. She will take over my role. What I can say is that right now I work as a principal content creator for Tarzana Treatment Centers. I write their website. I do their newsletters. I do their everything that needs to be written for the company. And being able to work at a company that helps underserved people is so meaningful to me, being able to reach out and give the message. And that's what I love about working in treatment. And it's so much better, as you well know, Jacqueline. Oh my God. It's so much better to be working in treatment as opposed to being in treatment.
I agree.
But I think also when you look at our two stories, you realize that you can make this remarkable shift.
Oh, yeah.
That this remarkable shift can happen for anyone because it happened for us.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It really is. It really is.
Yes, it really is fantastic. So I think that brings us to our end of part 1. And I want to thank everyone for being here. Please stay and watch part 2 when Jacqueline will talk to James. And if anyone is out there and is in danger or in trouble, I just want you to know there is hope for you. You can make this remarkable shift as well. There is a path to recovery. You can find hope. Thank you so much.
Hi, my name's Jackie. Welcome to part 2 for Finding Hope. With us, we have James Stevens. Hi, James.
Hello, Jackie.
Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I am great.
So we're talking a little bit about recovery, about how the cycle of going from addict to now you're a manager of a sober living.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I want to learn a little bit about your story. Well, okay. I know a little bit about your story because you were a past client of mine, right?
Yes.
So tell me about what brought you to treatment and what made you seek. So I was wondering, what brought you to sobriety? What made you decide, hey, I need treatment. I want to get sober?
What brought me to treatment is I tried it many times on my own, and I couldn't do it on my own. I realized I needed help. So I went to Tarzana.
Yes.
And
you were a past client of mine.
Yes, and I needed help because I got tired of my lifestyle and my struggles and being sick.
What was your lifestyle?
Very irresponsible. And I worked and supported my addiction, but I was always broke. I worked, but yet I was broke. And so it was like a revolving circle of nothing. And it just got worse. And then I became homeless. And then I had to put up with other people that I really didn't want to be around because it wasn't worth it to me. Just too much hard times and difficulties. And I wanted a better life, and I knew it was out there. I just had to get help to do it.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you were using and your journey? I mean, like, you said that you were tired of your life and you were tired of the people around you. What were you using?
Well, I was using methamphetamines and heroin. I started off at a younger age, like it was the thing to do as a teenager, so there was no repercussions. I didn't have no responsibilities, so I was introduced to methamphetamines. It was like the thing to do, and then it became an addiction. But I managed to be somewhat of a functioning addict because I had a job. So it wasn't really big problems because I managed to use a little bit here and there, but after that, it became full time. And I didn't work. I was just running the streets, causing trouble, getting in trouble. And then I couldn't have relationships. My family kind of disowned me. Then I finally got arrested and sent to prison. That was a first struggle. And I learned there that I didn't like prison, but my addiction wasn't letting me think that way when I got out. So I paroled to failure because most of my family was using or drinking, and I was influenced by that at a young age, but it didn't affect me until I got older because it seemed like a norm.
Yeah.
And
so that must have been really difficult, having not only, your own addiction, but here you are, you come out, and that's probably what helped influence you to use in the first place, being exposed.
Yes. I remember the struggles and the arguments my parents had and stuff, but they were more alcoholics than drug addicts. But then my generation got more into drugs. But I remember as a teenager drinking because I thought it was cool, but then throwing up all the time and then doing it over and over. But it was cool, but it wasn't cool. Now that I'm sober and elegant. So,
it's the lies that we tell ourselves in our active addiction.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm having so much fun.
Yeah, I remember many a times, and I've done a lot of crazy stuff just from drinking. But then as I got older and into hard drugs such as methamphetamine and heroin, that drinking was just a side addiction.
Was it like a gateway? Like if you drank, would it like lead to you using?
Most definitely. That's why I don't drink today. For one, if I get a good head change from alcohol, I will be headbound strong to go find drugs, and I will find them until I do.
I think that's really important because a lot of A lot of addicts, drug addicts, think, oh, well, alcohol was never an issue for me. So I won't use methamphetamine or I won't use heroin. I'll just have a drink. And then a year or two later, they're back in treatment because they relapse.
Mhm.
And finally they realize, oh, well, okay, I can't use any of that because it'll lead back to this.
Well, that's me exactly, because I've quit drugs on my own because family members or friends said, "Oh my God, you're getting too skinny," or "You look terrible." And I'm like, What? So I would quit cold turkey with no problem. But that was from methamphetamine, not opiates. But I drank because I'm okay, because it wasn't a problem in my life at that time. And then as I got older and I learned that if I drink and I get drunk or a good head change, it just triggers my addiction and I have to go find drugs. But I've tried that many a times. And, you know, I would sober up from drugs and I'd go, because I was feeling sick or bad, and I'd go down like a half pint of vodka, just down at like one drink. And that's not normal, and it wasn't very social. And I didn't really socialize in my addiction or using, except when I was trying to make money or make deals.
Yeah.
So
tell me, how did you learn about Tarzana and what made you enroll in the program?
I actually learned about Tarzana from my sister because she went there.
Okay.
And that's when I went there the first time and did 30 days. In that 30 days, because I wasn't ready, it was more of a pact with my sister. Let's get sober together. I had a sack of drugs, and I took them with me a couple of times to Tarzana, but I didn't use. And then one day, I just couldn't control it. I'm like, I don't need this. And
so you weren't willing. You were just going through the motions.
Yes.
So what changed?
Or
was this another time that you enrolled in Tarzana?
No, that was the first time.
Okay.
And then the second time, I went quite a few years until the next time. I think maybe about 4 years. And things, my life really, I started thinking about my family and friends, my real friends, and nobody talked to me because I was worthless. And who would want to talk to me if I'm too busy fixing something that can't be fixed, and not being dependable and not being responsible? And then I got tired of the struggle because I worked hard, but I never had no money, you know.
So you worked hard on nothing.
Exactly. It ended up being a vicious circle of nothing because I never had no money in the bank, didn't have a bank account. And this day, today, I have money in the bank, I have a bank account, I have a car, I'm so legal, it's not funny. You know, I'm very happy. You know,
Good.
Before I used to see a cop or a police officer, and I would really tense up, like, and try and turn the corner, you know?
Yeah. So back to when you enrolled in Tarzana this last time, obviously you were willing. Can you tell me what your journey's been like since sobriety? How much time do you have, and what is life like now?
I'm coming up on 14 months of sobriety.
Awesome.
And this time I made a decision, and I went and I said, I'm going back to Tarzana because I knew the help that was there. I just didn't have experience of it, you know. So I made the decision, which made it a lot easier for me. And I wasn't ashamed to ask for help. I wasn't above that. Like, I can do it myself, like a man thing, you know. I don't need no help. I can do this. But I realized I needed help. And I was open for suggestions and advice.
Yeah.
And I had an awesome counselor.
Thank you.
Yes, that helped me a lot, and because I was a mess when I first started, even though I thought I had it together, but I had it together only because I made the decision to get help.
You had everything in the making for success because you came in ready. You came in willing. You wanted it desperately. It was like your drive and want and need, you had the same motivation towards recovery as you did in your addiction towards getting your fix.
Yes, yes.
You wanted it the same.
Yes.
You wanted it just as much as you did back when you were using and wanting that drug. And that's why I knew, working with you, that you had the groundwork there. It was there. The foundation was solid. I want to talk about your medically assisted treatment. You were enrolled and you were utilizing Suboxone.
Yes.
And tell me, what made you change from Suboxone to Vivitrol?
Well, I have a sponsor, and I told him what I was on, and he looked it up because I guess he wasn't familiar with it, but he looked it up, and then he came and told me, we have a conflict of interest here. And I'm like, okay. So I talked to the nurse.
Why did he say that there was a conflict of interest?
Because it's a mind-altering, mood-altering substance.
Oh, okay.
And so I talked to the MAP counselor and the medical and got stepped down from it.
Okay.
So I stepped down, but then I wasn't being honest. And so I was cutting little pieces of it. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not taking a whole strip. But I finally came to realize I was chasing the euphoria of the fill. And my wonderful counselor at Tarzana, Miss Jackie,
yes,
talked to me about Vivitrol.
Yes.
And
how is that for you?
It works really good. I mean, you don't feel nothing, but I don't have no cravings or nothing. But I do know, which helps, I do know if I go and use or drink, I will get sick or right into withdrawals. And I had enough withdrawals to last me a lifetime because it's very uncomfortable and miserable.
It leaves an impression on us.
Yes, very much so. And I remember having them too. And yes, I don't miss them. But, you know, I take a shot once a month, and just knowing that just keeps me aware that if I do decide to relapse or have a thought about it, that it would not be very good.
Yeah.
But the good thing about that is it takes away the cravings. I don't really have cravings. At least I don't think I do, but maybe I do. But through the Tarzana program, I've learned how to play it forward. So yeah. I've had thoughts of drinking, not really using, but of drinking, because I ran out of gas one time and I had to walk, and it was a hot day, and I happened to walk by a bar that I frequented.
Yeah.
And I said, I could have a beer. Nobody would know. There goes the line. But I played it through. Yeah, I can get away with it once, but then that psychs myself up that I could possibly go drink again. And eventually I'll have 1, 2, and maybe 3, and then start getting drunk, and then I'm going to go straight to drugs. And I would lose everything I have. My family's back in my life. I have awesome friends, and I accomplished a lot in my sobriety, and I would lose all that.
Speaking of accomplishing a lot, can you tell me what you're doing now? Because you are currently the manager of a sober living. What's that like, working with individuals that are fresh in recovery or not in recovery? I know that you've experienced, what's it like to be on the other side of the fence versus?
I'm very grateful, and I feel that I'm giving back. I share my experience, strength, and hope with gentlemen. A lot of them are fresh, either out of jail or from the streets, and I try to share with them where I came from, and that I'm in the same neighborhood I grew up in, but I do not go around old friends. And I let them know that I've had to get help, and counselors, and I mentioned Tarzana or other programs for them. And some guys last, some guys don't, which makes me very aware of alcoholism and addiction, how it is very baffling. There's a phrase, but it'll get you.
Yeah.
No matter how much you think you got it, just one day out of the blue, you'll have a thought and just go off unless you actually think it through and have a program or a counselor or friends that can help you.
Yeah. So having a strong foundation of basically relapse prevention plan is important. It's really important. When you're working with these guys, so how has your life changed since completing Tarzana Treatment Center?
My life has changed dramatically in a really positive and good way. Again, like today's my birthday, and it's my second sober birthday, and I've gotten happy birthday wishes from all my sisters and my kids and nieces and nephews. Excuse me. And it means the world to me. And I get a lot of text messages, hey, we're proud of you, because they know me, that I used to be a really hot mess and a lot of trouble. I've been in and out of institutions because of my alcoholism and addiction, which made me do a lot of stupid things. But today, I have 2 cars. They're all legal, nothing hot wired, no tickets. I'm insured. I'm in training for more of a permanent manager's job at this transitional housing. And I just have a lot of wonderful doors opening for me and a lot of good people reaching out to me.
That's amazing.
Yes, and if I was still in my old ways, I would have none of that.
That's amazing. So being able to build or mend these relationships with your family and new friends and some old friends, how is it like being able to connect with other individuals in recovery?
Ones that have been in recovery for a while, or ones that are just starting?
Ones that are just starting.
It makes me feel good to give back.
Yeah.
And I hope to teach them something just by sharing my experience and strength and hope in the stuff I do. I see some guys that aren't ready, and it hurts me, but it also, again, it keeps me aware of how addiction and lifestyle can draw you back in.
Yeah, and one of the things is that even if the first time, because I was a repeated, I go to Tarzana, enroll, drop out of the program, or complete the program, return a year later.
Yeah.
But each time I learned something.
Yes.
And I think it's incredible that you're taking your past experience and working with these individuals and providing them with, even if it's just a little morsel of hope and information that they could carry on and build on. I think it's amazing. How do you plan on maintaining your lifestyle now, and what are you hoping to accomplish in the future? Where do you see yourself?
I'm staying on the path that I'm on, and I'm staying connected with treatment centers or Tarzana. I talk to a lot of people, and I'm just staying focused. And I'm not a young man, so I'm trying to catch up on my life, but I'm not chasing it in a sense. And as long as I stay in my sobriety, most things seem to be falling into place for me. That's a godsend, and I'm very grateful for that. I have some school coming up, so I'm going to improve my education
And your skills.
and skills
Mm.
and become a better people person.
Well, you're already a people person.
Yes, but I'm almost like a rock star at Tarzana, but which is very good.
Yes,
So,
you are a rock star.
yes.
Thank you so much for joining us
Thank you for having
and
me.
sharing your story. It means a lot to me. And I love seeing who you've become already. And I can't wait to see who you're going to be in the future. And keep up the good work.
Well, thank you.
I'm
Thank you
really
very
proud
much.
of you.
Thank
I'm
you.
really proud of you. And I just want to thank everybody for watching. And thank you to James for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Brought to you by Tarzana Treatment Centers. You can visit our website at www.tarzanatc.org or call 1-800-996-1051.